Welcome, Alex. How are you today?
Great. How are
Thank
you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. We've had a nice conversation already with Michael Yeager about liberal arts colleges. And with you, I'm hoping you can certainly talk about your own experience and observations, but in general, I want to really focus on return on investment, not just kind of what's cool about it, like some of the positives in general, but I know that parents, when they hear about liberal arts colleges, they foresee unemployment after graduation. Like that is what,
Yeah, yeah.
or they foresee, like, do you want fries with that? That is their picture. It wasn't my experience at any moment upon
Mhm.
graduation, but the fact that I'm trying to represent my own experience to them, they're like, well, you got lucky, or, so really, really interested in kind of finding out like some of the things, like obviously ultimately I want to reassure them liberal arts colleges are not for everyone, but they definitely are for a lot of students, and I want to reassure that there are jobs afterwards. So what should parents and students maybe be looking out for, like, what can affect your return on investment in general, so they can think about this in concrete ways and not just that, like, my daughter might graduate with English. Like, let's try and be a little bit more concrete about it.
Yeah, yeah. And I echo that sentiment because when I am filling out or helping families like navigate the paying for college, filing, financial aid forms, reviewing award letters later on and looking at those scholarship dollars. Yeah, the what if or how is this going to pay back in the future versus, yeah, the meaning of life or
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What are some kind of factors about return on investment that we need to be mindful of? And
Mm-hmm.
I think cost is one of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So cost of college, maybe not the sticker price right now, but as we incorporate them into our college, liberal arts colleges into our college list, that we're mindful of that because we don't know right now exactly what the cost of attendance will be look like, what our out-of-pocket costs look like.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely important to make sure that we're filing financial aid or aware of the scholarship programs that are at the college, and
Mm-hmm.
then also have that budget as well, right? Having because a, like a technical college or an institute or kind of one of those kind of more or a business college, they can still be products of the kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So cost, financial aid, savings, time is a little bit like looking at what time is,
Mm-hmm.
and economic conditions, and then your major kind of where do we look at. So those are kind of all factors that we need to consider when we're thinking about those future choices of, if we're going to go into a sociology major, or geography major, or an English lit major. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
And that would be the case at any expensive college. So that's one of the things I want to highlight, like an English degree. It's clear, it's true that some of the majors at liberal arts colleges, I was a history major. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but it's would have been the same if I'd gone to NYU, right? In terms of like, it's still the same major. So I always like to remind
definitely.
people
It's
of that, like,
yeah, it's not like something out there that you're
right.
not that you're not going to still have these same questions and conversations with.
Right, right. But the difference, I think, at a small liberal arts college is that they give you a lot more attention and sort of everybody's in your same boat. I think, like, one of the things that struck me, and I may be leapfrogging over some of the points that you wanted to
Yeah.
make, but I had a student who went to a very well-known Catholic university, excellent school, I think highly of it. But initially, when he went in, he thought he wanted science. After a bit, he decided he wanted business. He wanted to work on Wall Street, and he couldn't get into the business program, which was fine. He thought, I can study economics. I like social science. It's totally fine too. But then they wouldn't help him with internships because he wasn't in the business program.
Hmm.
And this is really, like, I was surprised at this, and I can promise you that that wouldn't happen at a small
Yeah.
liberal arts and sciences program. Anyone who needed help with an internship who had the proper coursework, which frankly calculus and intro to econ is enough, should be, So he had to basically get his own internship, which he was able to do. And, he's doing great. And he certainly enjoyed his college experience, but I thought that would not have happened at a smaller college. They just don't draw those divisions.
Yeah, yeah, and that sounds like a unique thing, because I also worked at well, small college, Catholic institution, very similar.
Right.
Had their business school, had their engineering, but I also found that kind of also created an environment that there was an expectation of professionalism, or
Mm-hmm.
that idea that an English major is going to do an internship, or a geography major is going to do some research, or be a little bit more technical in their studies. So
Mm-hmm.
that really influenced I think the value of the education. So beyond the kind of the coursework, the theory that you're looking at, but more of the structure of your tuition and fees. So whether you're in an internship, or you have a relationship with your professor that can be that letter of recommendation to that internship, or that opportunity, or that summer job, um, and, and and really kind of building and exploring different industries within your major.
Mm-hmm.
I think oftentimes families and students think, well, if I'm going to be a history major, I have to be a historian,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the job. They're thinking of it in that kind of business school mindset, is that I'm in business and then I work in business. Well, you can still work in business. You can still work in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Think of companies as collaborative institutions. And so they need a lot of different types of mindset, people, different skills. And so you can be very intentional at a smaller liberal arts college of kind of and have the ability to explore, but also have that mindset of kind of, what am I going to do next? And I
Mm-hmm.
always tell families and students that are going into those types of majors, where, I'm going to be a sociologist. Well, that's great, but there's only like, I went on career informational
Mm-hmm.
systems, and I was like, what's the projection? The projection was like, maybe like 2 a year that somebody's going to be like a sociologist. But if you look at kind of the different industries that you could find yourself in, would be finance, business, insurance, research and development, software, telecommunications, like all these skills, because you're taking complex social structures and then defining them with methodology and research and statistics and those things, all things that businesses kind of want to utilize as strategies
Mm-hmm.
in their business, and communication. Um, I was a sociology ethnic studies major. I remember looking at having to write those 10-page papers right off the bat, and then beyond and beyond, and had to like really sit down, and my writing grew, and the strategies of how to kind of organize thoughts and convince folks of and create buy-in, management skills, all those things were kind of a part of your success for that return on the investment.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So I think, I just wanted to say, so I think you bring up an interesting point too, which is that people think all liberal arts colleges are maybe the same, and there's very different ones. Like I went to Reed, there was not a hint of business. Honestly, like the highest percentage of Reed graduates when I was there went into education. At most schools, it's business. So it was kind of understandable that it was like not a place that thought about business. Although I think for students who were very business oriented, maybe they felt like they were certainly able to go into business, and a lot of people still did, but there was more emphasis on maybe getting that MBA. But I like what you bring up here, because you're bringing up that there are also small liberal arts and sciences colleges that have this business component. I mean, Swarthmore also has engineering. So it's a small college, but it actually, and it's going to have that emphasis on the broad skills that the liberal arts and sciences give you. But because it's smaller, you're also not going to be siloed away, right? Like because you're in business, because you have a business program at this small college, that is going to influence other parts of the college. I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah. So you kind of flex and utilize the resources that you have in hand, just like you're mimicking what you're going to do in the future is you're going to leverage those industries. So pulled some data, pulled some data, some structure, so like, what are some, there's a lot of great articles out there. Washington Post, Georgetown has a great article. Edmit has a calculator to look at your return on investment. But I pulled out some kind of key things to remember in this is that liberal arts degrees or college, so the return on investment there is going to be a long-term investment, right? So your starting wage out of college is going to be reasonable, but it's not going to be that flashy business or engineering or computer science wage. However, the growth and your flexibility moving forward is you end up catching up. So you kind of the median to the kind of final stretch, you're going to catch up, and you're going to be level or very near level with that. And the couple of reasons, so you can look at statistics, and statistics are going to show you kind of averages. But what I want kind of folks to kind of come away with is what can we do to get there? What are the kind of those highlights of those pieces? And one of it is, so the flexibility of industry. So we talked a little bit about that, is that one degree can kind of create these branches of places to look for. And also in times of economic downturn, is that you can pivot. So you have the ability to pivot because you have this rich environment to connect dots, to be fluid, to pull information and move forward, and be flexible. So your unemployment rate is quicker. You might be unemployed, but you have the ability to jump back and pivot, kind of go from there. Problem solving skills, wide range of studies, so you have the ability to pull people in, and then also just kind of have that kind of strong commitment. So what was some other things? So one was looking at, so being mindful of looking at graduation rates. So you could look at a college and look at their graduation rates, and you can say that. But also, if you have a college that may be affordable, but might not necessarily kind of have the highest graduation rate than college B or college C, you can create that. What are those things that put you in a good position? So biggest factor in retention rate is that how you're successful in your first freshman to sophomore year. That is a key thing. So what do you need? What helps students? Meeting with professors, kind of all those selling points of a liberal arts college. Meeting with professors, having a small knit community, focused on academics, all those good things kind of really create those environments for your success moving forward. And if you're first gen, this was one thing. If you look at the data, if you're first gen, kind of like first gen students are kind of in there, can be lost a little bit. Get involved with a program, TRIO, EOP programs, advising programs, your internships, have a job on campus. All those things create and breed success to really create that return on investment by mimicking those success points.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I want to point out too, because you say that this is a long-term investment. So a figure that has always stuck with me is that 10 years out, or it might be 20, I can't remember, math majors are making more than business majors. So right upon graduation, it's definitely business majors, but then over time, the math majors absolutely catch up and then exceed. So on average, yes, engineers make more, for example, than history majors, but the top level of history majors are making more than the bottom level of engineers. So, if you think you're going to enjoy engineering, you'll probably do well at it. But if you hate math and science, that's probably not the right call for you. And you might actually do better as a history major is sort of like, one of the ways that I kind of encourage parents to think about it, because they seem to get very panicked when they think about this stuff. But I do like your approach. Like, how do you make a liberal arts and sciences college work for you? And there absolutely are ways to do it. It seems to me that it's more about the path is not as clear as it is if you're an accountant, like you kind of know what the path is. If you're a history major or a sociology major, you have to figure out the path, but also part of the reason is because that path is so broad.
Yeah.
And there are so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, we have about a minute left, but any last thing that you would really want to emphasize or resources that you would want to mention?
Yeah, I think resources wise, Advent was great. Kind of those colleges. Also, as you're making those college decisions, be mindful of borrowing as well. The statistics as well. We talked a little bit about college cost in that beginning. Borrowing for success. Being mindful of what your price points are. My golden rule is that your entry level job or your industry and first job could be less than or equal to what you're borrowing over the 4 years. So, attending a school with a great ranking, but if you're borrowing more than you can afford, then you're kind of putting yourself kind of behind the curve in your return on investment. So just be mindful of those when you're making those decisions. And if you're looking for colleges, you're looking and comparing colleges and you're creating a balanced list. So we always talk about so that you can make those choices in the future.
Right. And again, those school guidelines for borrowing are just as true for large schools as they are for small. So let's, and the other thing I like to throw out is that some of the well-off small liberal arts and sciences college actually can give very good aid. So, so definitely apply to those publics, but apply to the private schools too. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Alex.
Yeah, thank you.